So, you want to play Yasuo, the Unforgiven, in Dungeons & Dragons? Here is how I would do it.
I will not forget who I am.
For our Yasuo build, we will start with the variant human as our race. That way you start off with a free feat. This will also give us 2 ability score improvements, which we will put in dexterity and intelligence. The feat that we pick at the beginning is Magic Initiate, and we'll go for the wizard spells. This gives us access to the cantrip's Sword Burst, which acts like his E- plus Q tornado combo. Gust, which speaks for itself. Yasuo uses the wind technique. And the spell we pick for this feat is Shield. That's kinda just like his passive.
This blade never gets any lighter.
So, the classes I consider Yasuo is a fighter and a rogue multiclass, with 15 levels in fighter and 5 levels in rogue. The subclass for rogue will be the swashbuckler, and for fighter it will be samurai. We'll put our highest stats in dexterity and intelligence. We start as rogue, because this gives us the best equipment and proficiencies to play Yasuo. At level 1, we get the rogue's signature move, Sneak Attack. We'll deal extra damage if we have advantage on the attack, or if there is an ally within 5 feet of our target. The Sneak Attack damage will increase to 3d6 at level 5. This kind of mimics Yasuo's in-game passive of gaining critical strikes faster. At 2nd level, we get Cunning Action. Our main focus of this ability is the dash or disengage part. In-game, Yasuo's E allows us to dash towards an enemy and dash out of there quickly without taking any damage if played well, just like Cunning Action. The roguish archetype at level 3 will be Swashbuckler, since they excel in dueling in hand-to-hand combat, much like Yasuo does. You get 2 abilities for this at level 3, Fancy Footwork and Rakish Audacity. Fancy Footwork helps us a lot with dashing, like using Yasuo's E ability, since after you attack, the enemy won't be able to make an opportunity attack against you. We can then use the dash of our Cunning Action as a bonus action, instead of using the disengage, to get even further away from our target. Rakish Audacity helps a lot in 1v1 fights. You get access to sneak attack a lot more often. Not only do you not need advantage on the attack, you can also do it when there's only you and the enemy, so your allies don't need to be within 5 feet of the target either. The drawback is that it only works when it's just you and the enemy versus each other, so there can't be any other enemies within 5 feet of you either. Uncanny Dodge is the ability we get at level 5. Yasuo dashes out of the damage, using his reaction to do a wind wall, or just his passive shield. When we get hit during an attack, we can use our reaction to only get half damage. So as a fighter, we'll be able to get a feat almost every other level, making our build extremely versatile. We'll get into feats later though. The fighting style we choose at level 1 is Interception, with which we can block projectiles, for instance, just like his wind ball does. At level 2 we get Second Wind and Action Surge. Second Wind is just healing as a bonus action if necessary, but the Action Surge is the most important part here. Just like Yasuo in-game, we are able to attack a lot of times in a short time, since we get another action for that turn. Extra attack at level 5 helps with Yasuo's attack speed too. We get an additional extra attack at level 11, which increases our total attacks to 3 per turn. Now let's take a quick step back. At level 3 we get our martial archetype, Samurai. It immediately gives us the ability Fighting Spirit. With this, we can use a bonus action to get advantage on all attacks for the rest of the turn. And with this we also get 5 temporary hit points. This will allow us to flavor his attacks and his ultimate, as they will all hit hard and fast. When Yasuo ults, he also gets his passive shield fully charged, just like the 5 temporary hit points. The ability we get at level 15 is called Rapid Strike. We can forego any advantage we have against the target to make an additional attack. So, with extra attack, action surge and rapid strike, we get a total of 7 attacks at level 15.
Never could stay in one place.
Yasuo has traveled for long with only the wind by his side. To reflect this, we picked the Far Traveler background, which gives us proficiency in insight, perception, and 1 musical instrument of our choice. Yasuo plays the shakuhachi. Man, I totally butchered that. A Japanese flute. So to mimic this, we take proficiency in the flute. Since we pick Rogue as our first level, we choose our proficiency to be acrobatics, athletics, performance, and sleight of hand. At level 1, a rogue gets expertise. Our skills with expertise will be acrobatics and insight. As a dexterous fighter, being able to move fast and nimble across the battlefield is a must. And Yasuo probably has trust issues because of his past, so insight makes sense to be able to read people better.
I alone decide my fate.
Personally, I will always pick feats over ability score improvements, since they add a layer of customizability and creativity. Because of variant human and fighter, we get access to a lot of feats, so feel free to use a few to increase your stats, instead of picking a feat. You can obviously choose the order of the feats yourself.
The tangible, the intangible, both are my weapons.
As said at the beginning of the video, for the feat for human variant, we choose Magic Initiate to get access to wind magic.
One blade, one purpose.
So, to add more customization to our fighter class, we choose Fighting Initiate. This allows us to pick another fighting style, which we will choose Dueling. This will help to deal more damage per attack that we hit.
I will break them all.
We mainly pick this feat, so we can later go for another feat that we need. This feat does give us a perfect storm-wielding fighter ability, Storm Strike. 1d6 extra damage and disadvantage on attacks for our target. We hit harder, while they have more difficulty hitting us.
I am thunder. I am lightning.
This is the feat that we need Strike of the Giants for. Yasuo is a fighter who uses the wind to his advantage. With this feat, we can create a tornado around ourselves as a bonus action. Creatures in this tornado get their movement speed halved and attacks against us have disadvantage. Perfect for a Yasuo build.
No more running.
Sentinel is a great feat for any martial class, especially since we want to fight the enemies in a 1v1. With Sentinel you make sure the enemy can't get away from us, kind of like a knockup from our third Q.
I'll give you the easy way out.
Slasher gives us a slow versus targets we are fighting. If we hit our attack, their speed gets reduced by 10 feet, perfect for a clean getaway or to stay out of damage range.
It's just death. Nothing serious.
To maximize our damage, we pick this feat. Once per turn it can change the weapon's damage die from a 1 to potentially an 8 or higher, depending on the weapon we pick.
My flute is the music of my heart, but my blade its steel resolve.
Equipment is going to be a bit of a challenge in this build, since there's not really a katana-esque weapon in D&D. A katana or any of the Japanese blades are often depicted as a swift weapon, so dexterity would be the preferred bonus to attacks. I would choose the rapier for its finesse property, although a longsword would make more sense with a versatile property. You can also ask your dungeon master to allow you to use a longsword with the finesse property. The problem with the rapier is that it deals piercing damage, so if you pick the rapier as a weapon, you go for the piercer feat instead of slasher. You can of course also ask the DM if it's okay for your rapier to be flavored into a katana and deal slashing damage instead. There's always a way to make it work using, for instance, descriptions of your attacks. For the sake of this video, we'll use a rapier, because that's one of the starting items for a rogue, and just make it deal slashing damage. As someone that's been a forever DM for 7 years now, I would personally allow this, knowing that there's not really any stats for Japanese blades. Yasuo's armor is going to be a simple leather, maximizing the AC we get from our dexterity bonus. He's also not wearing a lot of armor, other than the big crest on his shoulder. Leather armor just feels like it fits with his quick and nimble movement and fighting style. From our background, we get a musical instrument, and as said before, we choose the flute here, because Yasuo can be seen playing a flute when doing his dance animation.
This story is not yet finished.
And there you have it, a simple build for Yasuo in your D&D campaign. As usual, be sure to work together with your dungeon master to avoid any misunderstandings. Let me know in the comments down below what you would change and how you would play him. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know who you'd like to see next.